Take a sip of ice-cold water right now. Hold it in your mouth for 3 seconds before swallowing. Feel that temperature drop across your tongue, the roof of your mouth, down your throat. Notice how your body reacts, maybe a slight shiver, a reflexive swallow, that sharp, cold sensation traveling downward. What you just experienced wasn't just a temperature change. You triggered a cascade of biological responses that will alter the chemistry inside your stomach for the next 40 minutes. And if you did this during a meal, something hundreds of millions of people do every single day, you just changed how your body processes food at the molecular level. Here's what most people don't know. Your stomach isn't just a bag that holds food. It's a precision-controlled bioreactor operating at exactly 37 degrees Celsius. That's 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. This temperature isn't random. Every digestive enzyme inside your stomach has been evolutionarily calibrated to function at this exact thermal point. When that cold water hit your stomach lining, your core digestive temperature dropped. Not by much, maybe 2 to 4 degrees, but in the world of biochemistry, that's enormous. But here's where it gets interesting. The real action isn't happening in your stomach at all. Inside your stomach right now are millions of specialized cells called chief cells and parietal cells. Chief cells produce pepsinogen, which becomes pepsin, the primary enzyme that breaks down protein. Parietal cells produce hydrochloric acid, which activates pepsinogen and creates the acidic environment where digestion happens. Both of these processes are incredibly temperature dependent. Pepsin operates optimally between 37 and 42 degrees Celsius. Drop the temperature to 32 degrees, and its catalytic efficiency, its ability to break peptide bonds in protein molecules, decreases by approximately 25 to 30%. The enzyme doesn't stop working, it just slows down, dramatically. The same thing happens with gastric lipase, the enzyme responsible for beginning fat digestion. At optimal temperature, lipase molecules vibrate at a specific frequency that allows them to bind with triglyceride molecules. Cool them down, and that molecular vibration changes. The enzyme's active site, the precise geometric pocket where fat molecules fit, becomes slightly less flexible. This is basic thermodynamics playing out inside your digestive tract. But that's not the strange part. Your body knows this is happening. And it doesn't just accept it. Within seconds of that temperature drop, thermoreceptors in your stomach lining send signals through the vagus nerve to your brainstem. Your hypothalamus receives this information and initiates a compensatory response. Blood flow to your stomach increases. Your body begins shunning warm blood from your core toward your digestive organs, trying to reheat the gastric environment as quickly as possible. This costs energy. Metabolic energy your body was planning to use elsewhere. And this is where the story becomes more complex, because what happens next depends entirely on what you just ate. If your meal contained fat, and most meals do, the physics gets fascinating. Fat doesn't dissolve in water. It exists in your stomach as suspended globules, broken apart by mechanical churning, and emulsified by bile acids from your gallbladder. But fat has a property most people never think about. It solidifies at lower temperatures. Different fats have different melting points. Saturated fats from animal products solidify around 25 to 35 degrees Celsius. When you drop your stomach temperature with cold water, these fats don't stay liquid. They begin to coagulate, forming larger, more viscous clumps that are significantly harder to emulsify. This isn't speculation. This is established lipid chemistry. Your stomach now has to work harder. The smooth muscle contractions that churn food, called peristalsis, must increase in intensity. Your stomach must produce more bile acids to break apart these larger fat particles. And because the enzymes are working at reduced efficiency, food stays in your stomach longer. This is called delayed gastric emptying. The average meal takes 2 to 4 hours to move from your stomach into your small intestine. Add cold water, especially with a high-fat meal, and that duration can extend by 30 to 60 minutes. But here's what makes this genuinely interesting. Your body interprets this delay as a signal. Your gut isn't just a digestive tube. It's the largest endocrine organ in your body, producing more than 30 different hormones that regulate everything from appetite to mood to immune function. When food sits in your stomach longer than expected, stretch receptors in the stomach wall activate. These receptors communicate with enteroendocrine cells, specialized hormone-producing cells scattered throughout your digestive tract. These cells release peptides into your bloodstream like cholecystokinin, peptide Y, and glucagon like peptide 1. These aren't just digestion regulators. They're signaling molecules that cross the blood-brain barrier and affect neural circuits in your hypothalamus and brainstem. The real question is, what is this extended exposure telling your brain? Here's where evolutionary biology enters the picture. For most of human history, cold water wasn't abundant during meals. Our ancestors didn't have refrigeration. Water was generally ambient temperature, or warm if heated over fire. The combination of cold liquid with food is a relatively modern phenomenon, made possible only in the last century with widespread refrigeration. Your digestive system didn't evolve expecting this thermal shock during the precise moment when it's trying to perform complex chemistry. When your gut hormones signal prolonged fullness, your brain interprets this through ancient pathways. Extended gastric retention meant, historically, that you'd consumed something difficult to digest, possibly fibrous plant material or tough animal protein. Your metabolism adjusts accordingly. Ghrelin production, your hunger hormone, gets suppressed. Insulin sensitivity can shift. Your parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest branch, stays activated longer. This might sound beneficial. After all, feeling full longer could mean eating less, right? But the story becomes stranger, because what happens in your gut doesn't stay in your gut. Your digestive tract contains approximately 100 million neurons, more than your spinal cord. This is called the enteric nervous system, and it operates semi-independently from your brain. It's sometimes called your second brain, though that term undersells its importance. This neural network communicates bidirectionally with your central nervous system through the vagus nerve, a massive information superhighway carrying signals in both directions. When digestive timing changes, when enzymatic activity slows, when gastric emptying delays, your enteric nervous system registers all of it, and it sends that information upward. Recent research in neurogastroenterology has revealed something remarkable. The state of your digestion directly influences neurotransmitter production in your brain. Approximately 90% of your body's serotonin is produced in your gut, specifically by enterochromaffin cells in your intestinal lining. Serotonin isn't just a happiness molecule. It regulates mood, yes, but also sleep cycles, memory consolidation, pain perception, and cardiovascular function. When digestion slows, when the thermal and chemical environment shifts, serotonin production patterns change, not drastically, not pathologically, but measurably. And this is where everything changes, because we're no longer just talking about digestion. We're talking about a simple habit, drinking cold water with meals, potentially influencing neural function, circadian rhythm stability, and long-term metabolic programming. The next mechanism is even more surprising. Your gut microbiome, the trillions of bacteria residing in your intestines, are incredibly sensitive to digestive timing. These organisms have evolved to expect food arriving in the small intestine on a relatively predictable schedule. They've synchronized their metabolic activity to your eating patterns. When gastric emptying delays, when food arrives later than expected, microbial fermentation patterns shift. Different bacterial species become active. The types of metabolites they produce, short-chain fatty acids like butyrate, propionate, and acetate, change in concentration. These metabolites aren't waste products. They're signaling molecules that influence everything from intestinal barrier integrity to systemic inflammation to gene expression in distant organs. Butyrate, for instance, is the primary fuel source for colonocytes, the cells lining your colon. It also acts as a histone deacetylase inhibitor, meaning it can literally influence which genes get expressed in your cells. Lower butyrate production has been linked to increased intestinal permeability, altered immune function, and even changes in neuroplasticity. This is no longer about whether your stomach digests food slightly slower. This is about whether a daily habit is subtly but systematically altering your microbiome composition, which in turn influences inflammation pathways, which affect everything from cognitive function to aging trajectories. But the body isn't finished yet. Let's connect every mechanism we've uncovered. Cold water enters your stomach during a meal. Temperature drops. Enzyme efficiency decreases. Pepsin, lipase, and others slow their catalytic activity. Fats begin to solidify, forming larger particles. Your stomach compensates by increasing blood flow, using metabolic energy to reheat the environment. Peristaltic contractions intensify. Gastric emptying delays. This delay triggers stretch receptors, which activate enteroendocrine cells, releasing gut hormones into your bloodstream. These hormones communicate with your hypothalamus, affecting appetite regulation and metabolic signaling. Your enteric nervous system registers the timing shift and transmits this information through your vagus nerve to your brainstem. Serotonin production patterns in your gut shift subtly. Your microbiome receives food on an altered schedule, changing fermentation patterns and metabolite production. Butyrate and other short-chain fatty acids fluctuate, influencing gene expression, intestinal barrier function, and systemic inflammation. All of this from a glass of cold water. Here's what makes this genuinely profound. None of these individual effects are dramatic. Your body is resilient. It adapts. It compensates. One cold glass of water with one meal won't damage your health. But biology operates through accumulation, through pattern recognition, through repeated signals that over months and years program metabolic expectations and microbial ecosystems. The human body is not a simple machine where input equals output. It's a complex adaptive system where small, repeated perturbations can shift equilibrium states, where daily habits don't just affect the moment, they become the language through which your body interprets its environment. What traditional medicine often misses, and what modern systems biology is beginning to understand, is that digestion isn't an isolated process. It's the foundation of a signaling cascade that touches every major system in your body: metabolic, endocrine, nervous, immune, even genetic expression. The question isn't whether drinking cold water with meals is bad or good. Biology rarely works in absolutes. The question is whether you want to introduce a daily thermal and temporal disruption into a finely tuned system that's been optimizing its chemistry for millions of years. Your stomach will reheat. Your enzymes will resume normal function. Your body will process the meal, but it will do so slightly differently than it would have otherwise. And in that difference, repeated daily across years, lies a subtle retuning of your digestive system's baseline expectations. You had no idea something as ordinary as the temperature of water could cascade through enzymatic chemistry, hormone signaling, neural communication, microbial ecology, and genetic expression. But that's precisely how biology works. Every input matters. Every pattern registers. Every habit becomes a long-term instruction set. The invisible processes happening inside your body right now are far more interconnected, far more responsive, and far more sophisticated than most people ever realize. And that glass of ice-cold water you just drank, your body is still responding to it.